Hello and welcome to the Adrian Bock podcast, the interview series, where we take a deep dive into some of the most influential minds in real estate. Yes, it's the interview series, episode 219, and I'm delighted to be joined by one of my close friends and coaching clients, Karen Terry. Hi, Karen. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. So for those who have been living under a rock, who don't know, please tell us where you work and which areas you focus on.
Sure. So I work at McGrath. I'm one of their franchise partners at the Forestville office. So this area I service is what we call the forest market, which takes into account 5 forest suburbs. And I specialise just in those suburbs.
Excellent, excellent. And we've been working together for how long now?
I would say 9 years. I started at McGrath, it's 9 years this year, and that's pretty much when I met you and then became one of my coaching clients. Oh, one of your coaching clients, 5 years ago?
That's right. And then when I left in 2019, we just continued after
on.
that. Yeah, great. One thing I must say about working with you and your team, given, Steven Bock also is part of your team and, the other great members that you do have there, that it's incredible, even though we only meet per quarter and you send your numbers weekly and we speak, quite often, it's amazing for that number of years, each time we sit down, we're able to evolve your business. And it's not really me. I'm sort of more directing it and more the conductor, if you like. But isn't it incredible how they're not just nuances either? They seem to be quite almost tangible and implementable evolutions of your business each time we catch up.
That's exactly right.
And the good thing is you're actually implementing them. Do you think it's because we collaborate well together, myself, you and Steve?
I think you've got to have a good relationship with the person who's coaching you. And also we have a lot of trust in you because you've got the runs on the board. You've run a very big real estate business and continue to do so. You're an auctioneer, you're a tactician, you're on the ground, you understand what it's like to be in someone's lounge room. So we have a lot of trust in your guidance, but also you're working with a lot of really good other agents out there, other teams as well. So you can see things high level, step back from, the trees, look down upon us and be able to just pick those little pieces of our business that there could be a gap that we could be closing or there's leakage in our business and how do we fix it? Because you've got proven runs on the board.
I appreciate that. But the important thing is that you actually implement it. And also, as you know, my delivery can sometimes be quite direct and that can polarize people. And but you guys have no ego at all, even though you're very senior in what you're doing and you've got incredible market share. So to be able to still embrace and learn and grow, that's very modest and displays a lot of humility there.
Yeah. And, sometimes I challenge some of those changes and, and I'll sit there, challenge, step back and then go, well, let me just think about this. And, look away for 10 minutes and then, you talk to us 3 weeks later and it's implemented.
Yes.
And that's just testament to who you are.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll tell you what I want to initially talk about, Karen, which is quite common in the industry now, is a lot of agents at a mature age are now pivoting from different industries.
Yes.
You were one of those.
Yes, that's right.
Could you just tell us a bit about your background? Because the industry you were in previously is actually not that dissimilar to real estate, even though it might seem very, very much of a chasm and a dichotomy, but it's actually, there's a lot of synergy there. So if you could just tell us a little bit about what you're doing before you got into real estate and how you actually made the transition, I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, fantastic. So I worked for 20 years for Channel 9.
Yes.
5 of those years was in the sales department. When I had my first baby, I decided that the sales department wasn't for me. At that time, Channel 9 was run by the Packers. So it was very interesting. I probably didn't want to be in that environment of the sales department, if they'll just leave it there.
Can I just say, I mean, interesting is obviously a euphemism, and I know you don't want to go there, but could you just tell us, give us a little bit of an insight?
Absolutely. For me, I would say I'm not a big drinker. I'm not a big partier.
Okay.
A lot of that sales department was mixing with advertising agencies.
Right.
You had to attend functions at night, functions
I
on the weekend. That did not align with being a mum in the way I felt about it.
Yeah.
So I made the transition into one of the programs, which happened to be a current affair. And one thing I would say about Channel 9, they are exceptional at supporting their staff and certainly families, but you've also got to give to them as well. It's not, if you're not giving to them, they're not going to give back to you. So I gave my everything to Channel 9 and then moved into a current affair. I started on their switchboard, and I think we had a lineup of, 20 calls coming in, and you'd put the person on hold, listen to their story, find a producer and farm it out. Be there for the program. So taking all of those calls, I think that we were affectionately called the switch pitchers at the time. I loved that. I did that for 2 years on the switch and learnt so much about people, and then moved into what's called a unit manager. That is where you're pretty much managing all of the logistics. So if you think about it, you're managing a bunch of creatives, and I had to rein all that creativity in and collect receipts and have them on track for attending, interviews interstate. And when you think about television, wherever there's a disaster, there has to be a news crew in there. So whilst everyone is evacuating out, we're getting people into those destinations. So one very vivid memory is the tsunami in Japan, and probably so vivid in my mind because it was one of the last big ones that I worked on before I moved out of that role at a current affair and came into real estate. And, we were booking flights into Japan for our crews, and we worked very closely with news. I mean, we're hiring private jets to get all of our news crews in. Each crew carries 100 kilos worth of gear. So the costs associated with getting your news crews in and out of these areas was phenomenal. So you're booking these flights, and then all of a sudden you're getting a message, well, that airport is no longer there. Where are my staff? And so when I think back to those times, I was pretty much working around the clock when there was any type of disaster, because I actually cared about my crew and my staff and their well-being, making sure that they were actually okay on the ground. And then once they got onto the ground, they had a job to do. So they're almost like the first responder. They are there at the coalface in any type of disaster. What our news crews would see and hear was as graphic as a first responder. So taking that into consideration, I think for a long time that was not even considered that there would be any support for people when they came back from these type of natural disasters, whereas now I know that there's programs in place to take care of their mental well-being because, if they're not equipped for it.
You can't unsee that,
you can't unsee that stuff. So that was the natural disaster stuff. And then on the flip side, a current affair is famous for helping, the little guy or chasing down the baddie. And that's absolutely what we're famous for, having the stakeouts and making sure, in my role, was making sure all the paperwork was squeaky clean.
Yes.
We dealt with obviously some very big cases as well where we had to keep those files, worked a lot with lawyers as well at Channel 9. Keeping those all those files squeaky clean because they're always looking for, is any criminal being paid for any of these comments or any of their family members? So making sure all of that was compliant because we were subpoenaed for all of that information and it was my job to make sure all of that paperwork was in place. every single meal that was ever bought for those people, if they jumped on a flight, who paid for it, making sure that no money was changing hands between us and any of the criminals. So,
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely loved it. My boss at the time for 10 of those years was an ex-police officer in the crime squad. So he was pretty intense to work for, and I don't think you could get away with anything in that office, which is good. It kept you on your toes. It's a very, very political industry as well.
Yes.
If you don't fit in and mold to the culture and be a real team player, you will not have a job in television.
Right.
And that's why you'll see longevity in a lot of people that work in television. My story's not unique. 20 years, 20, 30, 40 years is normal in television. It becomes ingrained in you. And that's probably how I feel about real estate.
Now, interesting. Now, the current broadcaster or journalist or host, I suppose, Ali Langdon, she's a good client of mine. Her and her husband have bought and sold through me a number of times. Lovely, lovely couple they are. Yeah, Mike Willesee Jr. and Ali, lovely people.
And I would say in all my years at Channel 9, people always ask about on-air talent. I cannot honestly say to you that I didn't like anyone that was on air. They were all amazing people, such hard workers. Sometimes Tracy Grimshaw gets got a bit of a bad rap. I have so much respect for that lady. She is such a hard worker.
Yes.
And, she got to that role at A Current Affair through all those years of hard work. People forget that she was the host of the morning show. She was just a journalist on the news. So she deserved that role as the host of A Current Affair for all those years, and phenomenal interviewer.
Yeah, definitely. So the learnings then, because you spend some time in sales.
Yes.
So when we say sales, I'm assuming advertising sales.
Advertising,
is that right?
Yeah, selling commercial airtime. So I was only 19 at the time, so was not personally selling at the time. I just knew I wanted to work in television.
Yeah.
I saw an ad in the Sydney Morning Herald with the dots, the 9, Channel 9 dots, and went, I'm going to apply for this job. And at the time, the studios were in Willoughby. I sat in this reception desk. That was where I started. It's the true story of most people that make it in any industry. Start at the bottom, work your way to the top. So I worked in their sales department at the reception, and it was when computers were just, a bit of a new thing. So I was a computer whiz. So I could do everything. I could learn from these crazy programs. Whatever you taught me, I could do it. So I became the go-to person. I stayed in that role for a year. Then I moved into EA for the direct sales manager. So direct sales is like your Harvey Normans, your Nick Scarleys, your Nobby Kitchens. They go direct to us and buy airtime. And also, those morning programs where you've got like the people selling infomercials. That was our role.
Right.
Then I moved from there. I never sold anything. I worked then I was EA for the national sales manager for Channel 9.
Okay.
So that was probably where I decided after 2 years or 3 years with him, I do not want to go back to this.
Yes.
This is not for me.
Yeah.
And I went to HR and I said, there's a clause in my exit that says I have to pay back all of my maternity leave if I don't go back to my job. And I just said, I love working here so much. I'll do anything. And that's where a job came up at A Current Affair. And I loved that role so much. Learned a lot about dealing with people, understanding people, and working in a team, but also in team culture.
Yes.
Incredibly important, because if you don't fit that culture, you'll be out within 3 months.
Interesting. Because we look at the translation piece to real estate. So even though you may not have directly been involved in sales, obviously you're exposed to it. And then with Current Affair, as you said, involved with, logistics, standard operating procedures, crisis management, some sort of, like empathy around caring for everyone around you, etc. So when you look at all of that, there's actually a lot of takeaways towards real estate.
Yes.
And what was the transition from that into real estate and why?
It was just interesting. I was working on a story. It was in Toongabbie for A Current Affair, and I had volunteered to do this on top of my normal role. I'd always wanted to help with one of the projects where this lady, her husband was on holidays with the family in Fiji, and he was on a jet ski and he was hit by a motorboat and killed in front of his family on the beach in Fiji. First time they've ever been on holidays. And she lived in this tiny little shack in 𝐴𝐤𝐵𝐵, no money, no income. I can't remember, it was 2 or 3 kids. And we did one of those programs where we did knockdown rebuild of her house, completely remodeled it, pretty much took care of all of her finances. But how do we get that money? It's through people donating on air. So I can't remember the dollar figures that we raised, but once that money was raised, we then went and started the project, the building, the finishing that home, and being part of that project. I think it was 2 weeks that we were on that project. It was at that time I had met Steven Bock just through a mutual friend at the gym. He had asked me what I was doing. He was trying to get a friend onto a current affair.
Right.
I couldn't get him onto a current affair, but I got him on the Today Show.
Right.
So that was great. It was a bit of a transition in. And he started to ask questions because I think television is fascinating for everybody, actually.
Yes.
Everyone really wants to know what was it like. So I explained to him what I was doing, and I was going out to 𝐴𝐤𝐵𝐵 every day, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, finishing at 8 o'clock at night. And he asked me how much money I was earning and was I getting any additional money for all of this extra work. And I was like, no. And he says, well, why do you do it? And I say, I just love it. He goes, have you ever thought about doing anything else? And I was like, well, why would I? Like, I love what I do. And then about 2 months later, he approached me again and he said, I've been thinking a lot about how hard you work. If I could show you, sounds like a bit of a line, doesn't it? If I could show you.
This sounds like Steven.
How to 10x what you're earning, would you be interested in becoming a real estate agent? And I said, I've never thought about that. So let me just think about it. Anyway, he gave me this phone number and it was for the Australian College of Professionals. It was a lovely lady called Rosie Sullivan, who I love dearly. I'm actually seeing her on Thursday for my CPD training. And he said, give her a call. Why don't you go and do the course and see if it's for you? And it was in March of that particular year. I think it was about 2014 it was. So I was still at Channel 9. I went and did the real estate registration course. Then I would go after work crazy. I've got 2 kids. I'm a single mom. I'm working 5 days a week at a current affair. And then I would go after work to listing presentations with Steve. And then I would do letterbox drops for Steve. And then the next thing you know, I'm doing open homes on Saturdays as well as everything else that was in my world. And then on Saturdays, he started to teach me. By then we're about June of that year. I've got this whole list of expired listings and why don't you go and door knock these people, and if you can create the opportunity, get me in, I'll pay you a cut of that fee.
Right.
So lo and behold, the property address was number 10 of 1 Bonner Avenue, Manly. And that's one thing, if you cannot remember your first listing, I believe you're not a real estate agent.
Yeah.
And I went and door knocked it. It was this really old man, and he'd once made contact with Steve many years ago. He was not an ex-buyer, but he was someone that was considering selling at some point. We could never get him on the phone. Lo and behold, I buzzed. He let me in. I went into his lounge room. I didn't know what I was talking about other than did he still want to sell his house? So we'd made an appointment and Steve came back with me the following week. I listed, supposedly, I guess, with Steve's help, that property and sold that property prior to auction to a lovely man called Damien Sullivan and his wife. I've since resold that property for that family as well. But what it taught me was I could actually do this.
Yes.
So in July, I signed up to do my real estate license, I think it was at that time. And I had then listed another property. It happened to be an expired listing, and I think the number, it was in Borey Road, Forestville. I think it was number 13 Borey Road. Listed, sold that property. Zero experience. There was another one in Balgowlah that I did the same thing for, 31 Seaview Street. Worked with Stephen on that one. And I thought, okay, I approached my boss and I said, look, I think this real estate thing is going to work out for me. I'm going to do a transition. I'm going to be out of here in December. Now, that was the start of August by then. And it was the 28th of August. I then listed another 3 expired properties, one in French's Forest and one in Narrowena. And I just went to them and I said, I'm so sorry, I can't stay for any longer. I need to get out because I need to focus on this thing 100%. And that's one thing about me. there was no plan B.
Yes.
100% you give your everything.
Single mum, 2 kids.
2 kids. The thing is, the people that interestingly try to hold you back or change your mind are the people that are closest to you and know you the most, because why would you leave a safe job? You've been there for a long time. The money side of it, nobody really took that into account, but into something that you have no idea about and there's so much risk involved. And that, for someone like me, sparks the fire in your stomach that says, I'm going to prove it to you that I can do this. So I left Channel 9. It was the 28th of August.
Right.
It must have been about 2015. Managed to finally get my license probably by about, it was January 2017. By then I got my license. Worked very closely with Steve, and that's when we also joined McGrath.
Yes.
And have never looked back. And where you see that synergy between what I was doing before to what I'm doing in real estate is you are managing people. You've got lots and lots of balls in the air and keeping everything progressing forward, making very good connections with people. They're probably the main similarities. And I would say what television taught me is probably given me a great insight into really who I am and how it helped me be the person I am as a real estate agent today.
Interesting. So out of the main pillars, if you like, of real estate, which is sort of prospecting, listing, vendor management, buyer work, personal promotion even, because you're obviously very prolific over social media and you've got a strategy around that. What do you feel are the main pillars, if you like, that were the benefits of being in television towards the real estate industry? Communication. So pretty much everything, because communication's involved in prospecting, in listing, in vendor management, in buyer work, in presentations,
and accuracy as well. Often people say, you've got to really dot your I's, cross your T's. It's the 1% that will bring you undone.
Yes.
I had no ability to be able to make one error on anything logistical for those news teams that were going in and out of crisis areas, or perhaps just flying to do an interview or a story somewhere. It had to be 100% precise, right down to the dollar amount that they were given in their pocket to make sure that they could survive whilst they were still travelling. So having that level of accuracy stands you very well in real estate, because you do have to have accuracy. There's no winging it.
Yes.
You can't wing it.
So attention to detail obviously is important.
And I would say the reason why relationships break down, any relationship, but certainly in our business being real estate, is lack of communication. So we say in our business, you tell someone what you're going to do, you do it, and you tell them that you've done it. There is no wriggle room if you tell someone you're going to do it and you don't do it. Honestly, this is not the industry for you. You are dealing with someone's greatest asset. It is so important to them. Not everyone sells for a great reason. There's many reasons why people sell, and some of them aren't happy occasions and some of them are. So it's being able to have empathy, but also very respectful of how they're feeling about that sale in every interaction that you have with that client, and teaching our staff the most important person is that client, because they do pay us a lot of money for what we do, and there's a level of service that we have to adhere to, and we will absolutely honour that. That's part of our pitch.
Yes. I find it very hard for younger people to 100% grasp until they've actually gone through the buying and selling process themselves, because as you and I both know, even though we've been in the industry a long time, you're consumed by it. So can you imagine a layperson who's not in real estate, whether you're a buyer or a seller, that's all you're talking about as a couple for weeks, sometimes months,
And also the other little things that go with that. I can't wait to see some of my staff go through that process of engaging with a broker, going out looking at properties, missing out on properties as well. How does that feel?
Yeah.
And all of that what you need to do just in order to be able to put forward an offer, what you have to do financially, what you have to do with your bank accounts, having all the right connections, the right conversations with conveyancers. Once they get a level of understanding around that, I reckon that's when something clicks. And since I've been in real estate, I've bought 3 investment properties. Every single time I buy a property, I go through this anxiety again. And then once you've bought the property,
you go through remorse.
Have I paid too much? Or what's
exactly
going to happen?
The same,
you know, and it's really good to go through those
It
emotions.
is.
And then 12 months later, so it's almost exactly 12 months to the day that I bought my last investment property, that I look back and I think, best decision I made.
Yeah.
On to the next one.
Yes, I know. I love that. It's great that you've created this wealth creation plan for you, because especially with the younger team members, you know, they can learn from that, and really using the real estate industry as a great platform to actually invest in property, because that's what you know best. And you've picked a great area in those sort of western suburbs where there's a lot of growth. So,
incredible growth.
Yeah.
I think I did my research. I knew exactly what I was doing. So there was no fluke involved in those properties that I bought. I think also, you know, just to take it back a bit, you know, when I left Channel 9, two children, single mum, no support from my ex-husband at all, but thankfully I have an incredible family support, because I could not have done it without my family's support. I had nothing, Adrian. I walked out of that relationship with nothing. So I've been in this industry, as I say, 10 years, and I've managed to build wealth in 10 years. And it hasn't been easy, because it's absolute tenacity. There is no on-off button.
Correct.
You know, there is no such thing as work-life balance. And I've said that many, many times. If you want to be successful and earn a decent amount of money, because there's a hell of a lot of real estate agents that don't earn any money.
Correct.
That was not going to be me, because you don't sacrifice your family pretty much 6 to 7 days a week for no reward.
Yeah.
And it is those times when you do switch off, which is very rarely for me, and that's probably, and I'm not saying that's an honour. I don't think that's always a great thing. But for those 2 weeks where I do go away with my family, I treasure that so much, and that's what we look forward to.
Yeah. I often talk about that, Karen, that the work-life balance is a bit of a misnomer, and the best you can do is actually just try and identify some harmony in your life, because ultimately when you look at your main pillars in life, whether it's wealth, work, career, relationships, spirituality and health, it is a zero-sum game, because if you're working, there's no way that another area of your life is not going to be affected. Correct. You know, so it does become a zero-sum game where there are casualties. But there's other times, like you just said, for that 2 weeks, well then your business doesn't necessarily become a casualty, but it's less of a priority, because you want to be present, you know. 100%. So it has that flexibility as well.
And to be able to book a holiday, I've got this great holiday coming up where I've got my son, my daughter and her partner, and my first little granddaughter.
Congratulations. I know. Sabrina's just had a baby.
To be able to do that for your family is really special.
That's the most rewarding thing.
Rewarding thing. It's so exciting. The planning of a holiday is so exciting. So that's in May next year, and it's just 2 weeks, but they're 2 weeks that we're going to look forward to, and they're 2 weeks where I won't be working. Yes, I will check in every day.
Yeah.
I don't see my job, though. I don't see it as a job.
It's a lifestyle. As cliche as that sounds, it is a lifestyle, though.
You have to love it, because I don't think if you didn't love it, you probably couldn't do the hours that you do. I enjoy Sunday afternoon getting on top of my my week before the week actually starts. So that Sunday afternoon planning, I get so much pleasure out of that. That's not work. That's not work. That's de-stressing.
Great. So if some people don't know, you work alongside Steven Bock as a team.
Yes, I do.
What advice would you give some agents who are considering perhaps joining up with another agent? And obviously it's a business partnership.
Yes.
Where, you know, in most of those models, if not all, there would be a 50-50% arrangement.
Yep.
But 1 + 1 = 5 because
Correct.
you're actually adding so much value to the client, to each other, etc. So what advice would you give to anyone who is considering that, and what are the pros and cons? Because there would be both, right?
So I think you've got to leave your ego aside, and that's probably easier, I think. Sorry, respectfully, but for women, I think that's a little bit easier. Men often get a lot of ego attached to being successful and being number one, all of those great things, which are great things in real estate. I think where I got a lot of benefit that I respected Steve for his achievements.
Yes.
Not just real estate, but outside of real estate. And we worked on what were his strengths versus my strengths, what were my weaknesses and what are his weaknesses. Once you can hone in on your strengths and weaknesses as a partnership and stick in those lanes. So, for instance, in my business, Steve is very much, task orientated, loves the management side of the business. He knows the numbers back the front. He can spend hours on forecasting, planning, business planning. We pretty much hit our targets every month and every year. And then in terms of how much growth we're going to have each year, we've hit every one of those targets year in, year out. But also forecasting, yes, some of those more challenging years like 2018, understanding you do have to pull your numbers back to be realistic to a degree because the market's shifting, less access to cash, all of those things for buyers. So we manage that, and every year we've had growth on growth. So he's incredible in that part of the business. I am the one that is. I do have a creative element to me, and if you let me go, I could be ridiculously creative, and that's not always a great thing either because he can rein that in. But I can also bring in the softness into the relationship and that's not just business relationship, but also client relationship. People feel more comfortable coming to a woman if there's any issues, probably being a little bit more emotional about it. And so I can tap into that. Steve can then bring it back into the facts and the figures when we're at that point of closing the deal. So work absolutely phenomenally together.
Yes.
And people often say that to us. They say, you guys are an incredible team. And then to be able to have people that come in underneath us that they know exactly. So my role is listing and selling.
Yes.
That's all I do.
Yeah.
List and sell. Steve trains the staff, manages the business. He has every hat on, but if I take time off, I know 100% Steve can step into my role.
Yes.
And run the business as if I'm still there.
Yeah.
Most
and
people
that happens
know.
at times too, yeah.
Most people don't even know when I've gone away, Adrian, to be honest.
Yes, yeah. And do you think the most compelling part of being a male-female team is the listing component to a lot of the clients?
100%.
Yeah, okay.
100%. You walk into most households, there's usually two personality types. And so we can play to both of those personality types between us. And so male-female combination is exceptional, but also when we're actually selling the properties and we're dealing with buyers, quite often buyers will try and bypass Steven to get to me and vice versa. Well, I actually just deal with the buyers. But Steven and I have the same conversations with buyers. We're checking in every single day on every single property, so there's complete synergy. A buyer or a buyer agent can go to Steven for a question, ask a question about the property sale. They can come to me. It's exactly the same answer. And we back each other up.
Yes, good. And you did mention about having a slight competitive advantage being a woman, which I agree with, because women innately are more organised. They've got a better eye for detail. They're usually more trustworthy, more approachable, more affable. But why is the industry so anemic with females and it's still a boys' club? I just don't understand it. And I've spoken on this podcast about this topic a number of times and the mind boggles. Why?
I think there's a couple of things here. Okay. So if you took me back before, when I started in Channel 9, if I had walked into real estate at that point in time, it wouldn't have been the career for me. Okay.
Right.
It is all consuming.
Yes.
And there was a point in my life where it became achievable for me personally to be able to spend 6 days a week at work.
Right.
I think men more easily can do that because we have a role. I've got 2 children. Could I step out of real estate? And I'm sure lots of women do, but I'm sure there'd have to be support. Could I step out with a brand new baby and out of the industry for 2 years or a year to get back into it again, give it 100%, but also earn the same money that I'm earning now, raise my family, have my children and care for my children? I don't think I could do it personally. Okay. You would have to have an incredible support person. Right. So that's one element.
Yes. So that's just an objective reality, really. It's not.
Of course it is.
Okay,
We're the caregiver, unless you've got a wonderful partner that says, you go and continue doing your career in real estate. You be the breadwinner and I'll stay behind. And there is men that do that. And I think that's absolutely fantastic to see more and more dads doing that because it is the hardest job ever.
Yes.
Nobody knows what it's like to leave your children for the first time in childcare or daycare, all of those things. Your heart just breaks. Yes. So that's a challenge. Then additionally on top of that, I sometimes think men get in, and not all men, to be successful, that's quite different, but boys get into real estate for the money. And I don't necessarily believe that that's necessarily should be a driving factor. The money will come when you're ready for it. And if you're doing a good job, a lot of men get into it for the flash.
Right.
I think women are less flashy.
I see. So are you saying that's another reason why you think there's less women?
Yeah, I do. I think there's more men in it because they want to make a lot of money. Right. There's a lot of money for a lot of people, but there's a lot of people not making money in real estate.
Yeah, sure.
You and I know that.
Yes. Well, it's the 80-20 rule. You've got about 20% of the agents in the country earning about 80% of the income.
And you and I see them. They come and go.
Yeah.
Come in, it's all too hard, and then they churn back out again. It's not what they thought it was.
So do you think that's based on tradition that the man has inherently, even though things are changing, but inherently been the provider, therefore they go into it? But obviously women are becoming a lot more independent, a lot more ambitious, and that's not something recent. That's been happening for decades. And we talk about equality, which I think is super important. And you even look on boards now. There's got to be that gender, population within boards and things. So do you think it's changing though? Like, do you speak to many women or have you observed many more women that are at least interested or getting into it?
I do. I think it's harder for us, and I know there's amazing women out there doing great things. I do think it's harder for women to get to the very top though when they have a family. I really do. It is all-consuming. I am so lucky because I had, 4 years of my daughter working in my business. Yeah. The best thing that ever happened for our business was having her work with us.
Yeah, Sabrina was excellent at her role. Yeah.
Incredible. And now I've taught her so much. Well, Stephen and I have taught her so much that she's gone on and started her own business. People have realised what her skills are, and she's got this 5-week-old baby, and she's coming into our office today to do a 1-hour coaching session with the new staff. That's how committed she is. So I have taught both of my children how to have incredible work ethics and to never ever let people down on your word.
In terms of your team structure, do you mind just giving us an overview of everyone's swim lanes? Because there's just so much talk around teams, and for total transparency, we've had challenges. When I say we, us, your team, we've had challenges with staff in the past and retention, and it's taken us a while to get to where we are now, and even now things could change at any time. And I must say, someone who's out there all the time, this is one of the most frustrating areas. Yeah. And as you know, I don't let anyone employ new people unless I talk to them first. And we had a situation, I don't know, maybe about 6 or 8 months ago where you guys were convinced, and then I had a quick conversation. I was like, not because of the person themselves, but just because of the direction they were thinking they wanted to go in, which just wasn't consistent with what we wanted, right? So if you could just let us a little bit know about each person's role now, because this helps, I think the listeners decide what sort of volume they're capable of doing based on their resources.
Great. So obviously we've got Steven as my business partner and obviously manages every element of, oversees every aspect of the business. me, lead agent, listing and selling. Steven's always second agent. We've now got a buyer specialist who is moving into associate agent role.
Ashton
is what you would call a unicorn.
He is. Yeah.
18 years old, and this is for any boy that is at school, not sure what they want to do, can go into these wonderful TAFE programs that are available. He walked out of school with his real estate registration certificate, joined with a recruitment company whilst he was still at school, and it was Tink Recruitment.
Yep.
They said, oh, we've got this kid and he's only at school and he's going to leave, but we think he's got something special. We interviewed him. He was probably maybe 18 years old or 17 years old at the time, and I just saw something in him that you don't see very often. There was tenacity, and I could see there was a humble boy that wants to succeed. So Ashton's been with us for 12 months now. He will then come into and he's been doing all of the running around that a general buyer specialist would do, and that is all your buyer inquiries, setting up the open homes. We've taught him how to, interact with people at the front door, getting their details. We've taught him about the follow-up. So he's been doing non-interested party phone calls.
Yep.
When we get back, we're a big believer in Saturday afternoon callbacks. He's been door knocking because you've got to teach them how to make money themselves whilst they're still a buyer agent. And we've put him, obviously, prospecting calls as well. Giving him all the elements of the business, and the growth in this young man who's now 19 over this past 12 months has been absolutely phenomenal. We could not be more proud. So he will step in underneath me at 19, turning 20 next year. And if you could find another Ashton in your business, you're going to do really well, because they are few and far between where you get somebody that takes on board constructive criticism, looks to improve himself. And I'd say every single week that he comes to work, he improves himself. His energy is incredible. It wasn't always. We've had to teach him. We've had to,
I remember when he first started.
Along the way, but couldn't be more proud of Ashton. And then we have Andre, who is now coming in to take Ashton's role in the business. Ashton is going to be an incredible role model for Andre. To see somebody in that 12-month period go from, standing start to working underneath me, that's the pathway we would love to see Andre on, and hopefully he can do exactly what Ashton has done. We have great belief in him. And then we have, your what we call affectionately the CSM at McGrath. I'm not sure if everyone else uses that term, but essentially
client service manager. Yeah,
that's right. So managing trades, vendors in the lead up to coming on the market, managing all the agency agreements, booking marketing, making sure that all the wheels are always turning, taking things away from me. Because I'm terrible, actually. I want to know everything. I want to be involved in everything. That's not what the business needs, though.
Sure.
And she's taken over from Sabrina. So that is big shoes to fill, but we're really grateful that we still have access to Sabrina. She now bills us like she would any one of her other clients, and is incredible support for our business. And then, of course, at McGrath, you've got a lot of other support in place as well. So we have the wonderful 𝐶𝐬𝐦𝐻𝐬. We'd be absolutely lost without 𝐶𝐬𝐻𝐬. And obviously we've got and she's not one of my team members, but certainly there is support. And obviously Troy Malcolm, who's one of my partners as well.
Yeah, so Troy, interesting, because obviously one of my closest friends, and now a new business partner to you, which is exciting, and was the co-founder of this very podcast, actually, as well.
That's incredible.
Him and I started this. So we're over 200 episodes, but I must have started 8 or 9 years ago, and Troy and I started it. And he's, as you know, he's one of my closest friends, and it's so exciting that you guys are now business partners. So, very happy.
He's got a massive role there now, hasn't he?
I know.
Business
great.
Owner is a big thing.
It's great. It's great to see.
Awesome.
And the other interesting part about your business, Karen, which I think the listeners would benefit from, is the way your database is forensically structured. If you could just tell us a little bit about how it's actually set up and what are the categories and what's the nurturing process. Because the most common question I get asked is, well, how do we keep in contact with everyone and what are the means of communication, etc. So if you could just give us an idea, that would be very helpful.
Sure. You're categorized in our database as an A, B or C, and obviously your A's are your people that are selling within 30, 60 days.
Yep.
Contact strategy on those people is every 7 days or even shorter if we're getting to the point of listing.
Understood, yep.
We have the
so it's almost like your hot list or chase list. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Then you've got your B clients. So we know that they are our most valuable actually. They're the people that we've nurtured and are selling within a time frame of 12 months.
12 months, okay.
And
the frequency of contact?
Tend to be your downsizer. You're helping them with, preparing for sale. It's that perhaps they're going to off the plan retirement village or whatever it might be, that nurture program, not quite ready to sign an agency agreement. That's every month.
Once a month, okay.
Once a month phone call, but there's also those other...
The automation, which we'll talk about.
Touch points. That's exactly right. And then, of course, your social media, you realise how many of them actually watch your social media, all those subliminal messages.
Yes.
And then you've got your C.
Yeah.
Never doing anything. Carry me out of here in a box. Maybe they just bought 12 months ago. Yeah. Not selling for a long time.
But could get promoted to a B.
That's where they tend to start. Move through that process.
And what's the frequency of contact for the Cs?
Okay, so it's a once-a-year phone call.
Okay, yep.
It's always offering them an updated market appraisal. You always want to be adding value. It's not always about selling your home.
Yeah.
The sales will come if you're adding value.
Yeah.
Providing good service to those people. They do get a every 6-week email report that is specific to our market. Now, the reason it's running every 6 weeks rather than every month now is we're timing it in line with the Reserve Bank meetings because
there's only 8 now instead of 11.
That's exactly right. We find people have a huge focus on that, and we've watched those cycles since we came out of the pandemic of the build up to a Reserve Bank meeting, what the outflow is, what happens after that. So it's almost we can watch these cycles.
Yeah.
They also get an anniversary card if we've done an appraisal for them. So the year that they bought the month that they bought the property, they'll get a handwritten card from us, provided we've done an appraisal for them. This year, the first year that we haven't done it, we're already getting people calling us. We haven't done our magnetic calendars.
Right, okay.
And it's the first year that we haven't done it. We weren't sure that people wanted it. We've now found out
the
they all want their calendar.
Yeah.
So the touch point for those people is certainly less than those that are your high categories. And they also get a hand-delivered, we've just stopped this program because it is incredibly expensive. We were doing letterbox drops for our hard copy email report. We were putting that into a version that would be delivered, but at about $20,000 a year, we've decided to drop that program.
I remember when we implemented that. I think it was a really good strategy at the time. But
we have a lot of oldies in our market, and they still do rely upon the letterbox delivery, but it's expensive. So we've looked at other ways that we can be investing our money into those subliminal messages that you get out to people. The other thing that we do is every single time we speak to somebody, if we don't have their email address, we're obviously getting their email address, checking that, writing note files. Every single time you speak to someone, you must write a note file.
Yes.
You see someone in the street that you've had a conversation with, drop it in as a note file, because if anyone else in the office is looking at that particular client, they can see that I've had a conversation with them that week. The other thing that we also do is we love and use and have used Қ2X. Now, some people don't know how to use Қ2X properly and efficiently. They'll come back to us and say, it doesn't work for us, we can't do it. You have to treat Қ2X as one of your staff members.
Yes.
They're phenomenal at making the phone calls.
But they're only as good as how you brief them.
And then what you do with that information. So they send back to us a spreadsheet of every conversation that they've had. That note file gets read by Steven generally, or it used to be Sabrina, and then it was Olivia, who was our front office manager. Read those note files, grab those note files, put them into the database. But if there's any pieces of gold in those notes, like renovating,
having a baby, whatever.
Unbelievable. Hey, flick it to Karen, give them a call. This is what they've said. So if you're not mining that data that Қ2X is making those calls on, you are just burning your money. You might as well get your 20 grand, whatever you're spending on them, flush it down the toilet. It's doing nothing for you.
Correct.
So you've got to be on the phone to those guys. Hey, we only managed to book 6 appraisals out of 300 calls. Can you give us a bit of a briefing? What was it? What were people saying? Should we be doing something different?
And they're very good at doing that if you pick up the phone
Should we be
speak
doing
to
something
Callan
different?
or Alex,
Absolutely. Callan is phenomenal. What are other agents doing? What are they doing differently from us, from this particular phone call that we should be doing and implementing? The other thing I love about K2X, they do have access to our database. They're cleaning the data.
Yeah.
Hey, this person's just told me that their husband's died. That's the note file back to us. We can remove that husband or wife out of the database. Hey, the worst thing you can do is communicate to someone. They hate it.
Yeah, I know.
Particularly if they've had a conversation with K2X. Oh, but I told one of your team that.
Yeah, my husband's unfortunately passed away.
Yeah, you're calling John and John's no longer here.
Yeah. Well, that's why they provide those forensic notes. But as you said, they're only as good as how you use them. So if you're not taking the gold nuggets out of that, well, that's how you're determining propensity to sell. And then yet you've got all these AI products who are claiming to determine propensity, but no one can actually have that conversation and then intuitively make a decision when the next phone call should be.
And not only that, you'll sit down, be listing a property and they go, oh, it's great, and the reason we're sitting there is because K2X made the call 6 weeks ago, told us this person's thinking of selling, doing the agency agreement. They go, oh, God, that, Gemma that we spoke to, gosh, she was fantastic. Is she in your team? They are in your team.
Yes.
They are in your team. And that's the piece of the puzzle I also think people don't get with K2X is you would normally have 1 or 2 prospectors sitting in your office. Hey, these are your prospectors.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're on the phone. They're literally saying it's Adrian Bow from Karen Terry's team at McGrath.
That's exactly what they're doing.
So,
100%. So that's where people fail with K2X.
Without an accent as well. From nothing wrong with offshoring, but as for certainly non-dollar administrative tasks, but when it comes to telemarketing or prospecting, I just don't think it's appropriate.
And it's a touch point. We know it's getting harder to communicate with people over the telephone, and that is people that you don't know. People that you do know, they've usually got your number saved. They hear the familiarity in the message. We do leave messages. We're big on texting people as well, Adrian. People love a text message. There's a little bit more confidence in being able to read that message rather than pick up possibly an unknown phone number. We're seeing a lot of that now. So, K2X, phenomenal.
Good. So we've got our A category, which is our
Selling
hot list, chase list. We're calling them every 7 days.
Yes.
Then we've got category B, which are being contacted every month because they're selling in the next 12 months. Then we've got C, who are property owners but are annually getting contacted, but will progress to category B at some point.
Absolutely.
And so we've got the automation, which is going out, which could be K2X. We consider that an automation.
We've got great at getting email addresses.
Email address. So email as well is an automation. So how are we using email marketing effectively?
So email marketing, there's a couple of things that we do. But
because I know as a team we use iRealty.
Yes,
right?
It's the monthly email report. That's for everyone in the database.
It's terrific actually because it's simple. It's got just your current listings, your recent sales, a call to action, and it goes out, religiously.
And you get a phone call from someone, come out, I'm thinking of selling in the next 12 to 18 months. I just want a little bit of advice. You start chatting to them. I love your monthly newsletter that comes out. I read it every time it comes into my inbox. Really look forward to it. That's why you're standing here.
Yeah.
Good quality
information. And even if they're not reading it subliminally, as you, to quote you, they see that, then they see a sold sign, and then, so it's just part of this ubiquitous layered effect.
Correct. Now, your social media is also critical.
That's the next thing I want to talk to you about because you're doing quite well in that space at the moment, yet it's not that revolutionary either because this is another area where people are completely perplexed and feel that they need to pay thousands of dollars to a social media company and all of that. So if you could just let us know what your social media strategy is.
Be real, okay? So
this is where your TV days would come into it because it's like literally just press record and that was go authentic.
And I'd say even though I wasn't on air, I was.
But you're exposed to it
every single day of my life. Now, an incredible news journal or reporter, They don't wing it. They don't fluke it. I watch them practice. I watch them rehearse. Back in those days, they didn't have their iPhone to set up. They had to have a camera that they'd set up. They'd watch it over and over and over and over again to perfect it, because they're going out to an audience of millions. Hey, so are we on social media now.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so, you know, watch and critique yourself. You're not going to be perfect the first time, but have a red hot crack at it.
But perfection is so subjective anyway.
Look, I already know I would do professional property video for one of my properties, promote that on social media, because they always cut it down to a, you know, whatever it is,
a reel
49 seconds or whatever. The watch rate on that is vastly different to me standing at the property. Hi, I'm Karen Terry from McGrath Estate Agents. I'm down here photographing our next beautiful property that's coming to market. It just rolls off my tongue. I talk specifically about the home. I get it in one take. Very rarely would you ever have to get me to do 2 takes. And if I stumble a little bit, have a bit of a laugh, doesn't really matter. The watch rate on those can be up to 10, 20, 30,000.
Yeah. Well, the algorithm's actually designed. Well, for those who don't know, the meta algorithm is actually designed to gravitate towards that raw footage more so than professional. But look, we should still have a combination of both in our business.
Absolutely.
So what's your set and forget social media strategy?
Set and forget social media strategy. Yeah. So every time I list a property, take a photo of the letterbox.
Yep.
There is number 7.
Yeah.
Great. That's going to be
because we don't have a contract yet.
No, can't promote the property.
So
coming soon.
But if someone
exciting
calls,
4-bedroom. No, you can't give anything.
You can't give
it's
anything.
Just a teaser.
Yeah. Okay.
People
so it's a tease.
Buyers follow that stuff.
Yeah. But then they're waiting. But if they do call, I'm sure what you're saying is, let me get your details. As soon as we get a contract, So I love it.
And then they try and guess. There aren't many streets in Killarney Heights. They're in the hundreds. Is this?
They're being a detective.
Not telling. So that's the exciting
part. So that's the first step.
That's the first step. Yep. The next one is that intro video that I'm at the property and I'm doing, and it's always.
So that's once you've got the contract, because then you can say the address. Yep.
Photographing the property, exciting property coming to market.
So you're doing that at the photo shoot?
At the photo shoot.
Excellent. So good efficiency of time.
Good efficiency of time. The next one we do is we'll probably do a standard one where I do have the beautiful video. They've cut it down into a 49 seconds or whatever it is.
And do you appear in that?
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
So just as intro and outro?
Intro, outro, but I also then edit it myself and I throw it into this little template, it's called. Throw it into that to cut it down a little bit further so it's very punchy to the point.
Yes.
Promote that. And you do get people, particularly buyers, go, I loved that video. That was awesome.
And is that vendor paid?
I pay for it all, except for the obviously videographer going out there. That's vendor paid.
Right.
Me then cutting it and posting it, 100%.
Gotcha. And when you say posting it, are you doing paid boosting behind it as well?
So sometimes.
Sometimes. And if you did, just because people are interested, how much would you put behind it? $100? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And you look, they say 7 days is optimal. To be honest, if you're doing that across a couple of platforms, you're going to be spending an absolute fortune unless your vendor's paying for it. Okay. You might be a little bit cautious.
Even $50, it's going to work. Yeah.
Check your watch rate. Absolutely.
Okay. So letterbox, then we do your intro, then we do the professional.
Yes.
Then
we go. Sometimes we'll do. So say we have a great auction. Mark Lyons called it. We'll do a bit of a Mark Lyons piece as well. We'll cut that down because people love seeing the auction.
Yeah, the real
selling, all of that stuff. And he's quite a showman and he moves around a lot and he's got sweat and everything.
He's a DJ as well, so he loves it.
So there's a lot, and he's very personable. People, we win listings because of our great auctioneer, Mark Lyons. And then the next one that we do is the one that I'm famous for, and I will say it
jumping out of the car,
putting out my sold sticker, walking and talking, telling them about what actually happened with that
So a summary
property.
Of the campaign. It's a story. You're telling a story.
The sold sticker goes up. Now, I challenge anyone. I do see a few people try and copy it.
Yeah.
You'll never be able to copy it. I swear it's been trademarked. Because you just can't, because that is what I'm famous for.
Yes.
That is where people stop you in the street, in the supermarket. Excuse me, are you the sold sticker lady?
Yeah.
That's what people say.
Yeah.
Gets to the point where owners, I say to them after their auction or after we've just, done an unconditional exchange, not at auction, I say, why don't we go and do the sold sticker? They're, oh, no, that's your job.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what, everyone? We do about 4 sold stickers usually. And then there's another one that I do after that is me just standing at the signboard. talking about what actually did happen in a little bit more serious way than what that walk and talk sold sticker is.
Okay.
And sometimes I add in a little bit about the market or who the buyers were. Particularly, there's a hot focus on, underquoting. And just because a property had a price guide of $3 million and sells for 3.7, it does not mean that we're overquoting, underquoting. Let's talk about this.
Yeah,
and I'll throw in a bit of commentary about that. Yes, you get slammed on social media sometimes around if you're guiding at 3 and it sells for 3.7. But what I do say is we've often moved the guide up throughout the campaign based on feedback. So people have a really...
And sometimes you have to move it down. Sometimes
you move it up. Sometimes down. Sometimes you move it down and then it still sells for more, whatever's going through buyers' minds. And then the one that I get the most watch rate on, and I don't really have to boost any of that, is on TikTok, the sold stickers.
Yes.
Some of them are up to 1 million views. It's just out of control. You sometimes might get a little bit of negativity on that, but I don't really anymore. People know what I do. People know what the spiel is. You've got your followers, and if there's anyone that's overly negative on there, you just kind of go, well, you know what? You must be having a bit of a rough life.
And it's usually a hashtag user 128 Mike, Mike 123.
Or there's a picture of a growling dog or something. You just kind of go, just fob that stuff off. Don't take it on board. Don't engage with it. Delete, block them from all your platforms because they will hound you down. And I've had a few of those.
That's a daily mission for me. Block and block.
I bet. So, and don't polarize people with, with views one way or the other too much. It's probably a big thing because people start attacking you on your personal views. Just keep it factual.
No, absolutely.
Keep it who you
just
are.
Add value.
Just add value. Yeah. Don't be chest beating. Hopefully I don't come across that way.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But I would never say, I would say in all honesty, people think we do this for the money, Adrian. We do it because we love what we do. Yeah. We love helping people. The money will come if you're doing the right thing.
Yeah,
and I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah. So you just explained a great social media strategy, which actually gets you a lot of business, both in terms of buyers and sellers.
Yep.
And really, it's just half a dozen touch points for every listing and sale.
Blueprint it.
And it's not rocket science. You don't need a social media company to do any of that. So what would you say to someone who thinks social media is either too complicated or they're not good on camera, for example? What advice would you give them?
Oh, look, come on. Go back to my first couple of social media posts. I look at that and go, really?
Yeah.
And see the evolution of yourself.
Yes.
There is no such thing as perfection.
Yeah.
You've just got to throw yourself at it, okay? You might get 1 or 2 little likes from your family members, whatever.
Yeah.
Be a bit, start bland, I suppose, just to get used to it. Okay, well, I'm going to do a picture of the soul board. It's boring, whatever. Yeah. At least start to get something.
Yeah.
Then go, okay, now start evolving into the next thing. Just throw yourself at it.
Social media is no longer optional if it comes to wanting to be in that 20% club, right?
Don't try to be too fancy is the other thing, I think. Just be you.
And in terms of the auction process, you and Steve are both massive advocates of it. Why? What's the benefit to the buyers and the sellers?
So, firstly, you've got to believe in it.
Yeah.
I think it's the best strategy in terms of capturing the widest audience, okay?
Yes.
Because as a buyer, most buyers have flexibility, 10, 20, sometimes 30% in their budgets, sometimes more, depending on the suburb and the style of home, okay? Yeah. So I can have a knockdown rebuild buyer on a property that will buy the knockdown rebuild site, but will also buy the finished home. Variation in that budget can be a couple of $1 million, okay?
Right.
So it captures a wide audience. There's no upper limit on it. It would start with a guide and has an end date. But you can't just go and list a property, schedule an auction and expect it to all work out. You have to follow a very tight program, and that is in our business. We always have a set to sell meeting. So we're setting the client up for what the first open home should be, the first 7 days on the market. We tell them just to focus on that. Now, us as the agent, list the property online. We tell them how many inquiries we should get overnight for the first. It's 30 inquiries.
That's why it's sometimes referred to as an expectation meeting,
You don't hit that 30 before your first open home. We launch on a Wednesday. we get to Friday afternoon and you've got 10 inquiries. We're off track. Market is disengaging based upon perception of price. Let me tell you, the only reason they don't engage is because they think it's overpriced for what they're reading online. So I'm already telling them that. Now, that can be a really tough conversation to have on a Friday, but I've already set that up on the expectations meeting on the Wednesday.
Yes.
If we don't get this is what I'm going to recommend.
Well, because you're providing tangible benchmarking metrics.
Now, an owner will say to you, oh, but let's just get through tomorrow. Let's just see how it is. You've got 4 Saturdays. Are you prepared to waste your very first Saturday, 25% of your campaign by getting it wrong and expect next week that we've got to get this back on track? I am making a recommendation with just now. Now, you won't always get the outcome.
Of course.
But what I do say, I'll set them up for the next day. Okay, so you've had your 30 inquiries. Fantastic. We should have a great open home. You've had your 10 inquiries. You haven't taken my guidance to reduce your price guide. I can have a pretty average open home. What happens the next day? We get to the property. 3 people come through because there was 10 inquiries. It's much easier for them to self-adjust and go, great, okay, thanks, Karen, we'll take your advice. We'll have a guide adjustment. Versus the person that had the 30 inquiries, oh, God forbid you've got 50 inquiries and you've got 50 people coming through, we're on track. Now, reverse to that, you can have 50 inquiries and 10 people come through. Again, not a great open home. But I've already set that up on the Friday, Adrian.
Yes.
Hey, this is what we should expect. You've had 50 inquiries. We should have an open home. We should get 20 to 30 groups through. You get 10 people. We've got a problem. Let's call all these people. Let's get some feedback on this before we actually make any decisions around what we should or shouldn't do. Do we need to adjust the guide? Is it our presentation? Is it the marketing? Let's forensically go through this before I make any recommendations. And they sit back, wait for my call. Now, we do call on the Saturday afternoon. You have to be on the front foot if you're running an auction campaign. You need to know by Saturday night, and you need to be communicating again with your owners on Saturday night, how did those callbacks go? Now, we've already set that up in expectations. Saturdays are hit and miss. Sometimes we have great connections. Sometimes we don't, but we're always going to give it a go. We give one phone call, follow up with a text message. The text message is so specific. You visited this property. I've left you a voicemail. If you have interest, please get in contact with me. If you have no further interest, just send me a text message. It is incredible, the people that call you, the people that don't call you, and the people that text you. Hey, Karen, love this property. Is it okay if I call you on Monday? Hey, Karen, I love this property. Can you get the contract out to me? Versus, this one's not for us, but I've seen you've got something else. Hey, we'll jump on the phone. Well, that's Ashton's job. Ashton, jump on the phone, find out what the other property is, or get them into our database as buyers. But before the first open home, Adrian, if you're running an auction campaign, we've got a buyer, we've got to run our own buyer database. They're all categorized into price range, roughly what they're looking for, what suburbs they're looking for, what are those attributes. They're contacted by Ashton prior to that first open home. We've contacted 80 buyer agents before their first open home. So we've done all of this work leading up to this one day that sets you up for your whole campaign.
Yes.
Then on a Monday, understand your data. Understand what realestate.com is saying about that property and the market, the number of viewers, the views online.
That's those Sunday reports you get.
Sunday reports we get. You also get it from Domain. Understand the data so that you can then interpret that data over to your clients. Then that's a follow-up call on the Monday. It's a follow-up call on the Tuesday. Open house on Wednesday. Now, we were doing face-to-face meetings in the office for all of our clients. Thanks to Adrian Bow, we now do Zoom meetings for 30 minutes. So much more efficient.
Yes.
Get through so many more of
and
those.
you guys were initially quite reluctant, thinking it may not work, but now it's terrific.
It absolutely works. Everybody commits to it. We say to those people, if 2 names on title, you must both be there. If one of them turns up on the Zoom meeting, oh, sorry, they're not here, they couldn't get here, they're taking the kids to soccer. Great, well, we'll reschedule. Yeah. That's how harsh we are on it. You've got 4 weeks to get this right.
That's right. Yeah.
We do not have any opportunity not to meet with both owners.
Yep.
That's when we, unfortunately, we might even do a 7:30 a.m. for somebody.
Yep. Well, you're just evolving with your business because
100%.
when you had less listings, well, then face-to-face was tenable.
Fine.
But when it gets to a higher level, you just got to adopt and adapt and evolve with your business.
Correct. And I know if you miss that expectations meeting,
but the whole campaign is sabotaged.
If you miss any one of those vendor meetings, you will not get the right outcome on your auction day.
Correct.
So managing it every single day. We have a whiteboard in the office, which I know you've seen the whiteboard.
Yes.
We've got every address, who's managing it, who bought the listing in, what time their open is, what time their auction is, where the market is, what offers have they had, so that we're all across it. Now, you should be getting offers on your property at least 1 or 2 per week if it's set up correctly in an auction campaign. Because if it's not, you're flying blind around the value of that particular home in which you're selling. And how can your vendors make an informed decision?
Yes.
If there is a great offer in week 2 or 3 prior to auction, if you've given them no feedback from qualified, real buyers who want to buy their home, it doesn't matter what that number is. Just make sure you qualify it.
Yes.
Because if you give them something that's too high, you find out that person doesn't have their finance, or they've got ridiculous settlement terms that are never going to align with your vendor, forget giving them the offer. They're not the person that's going to buy the home. Be very careful of the information you give to your vendors. Make sure it's accurate and make sure you can document it. Something else you've also helped us implement in our business, particularly in selling prior. Yes, love an auction day. Not every property goes to auction, and sometimes that's taken out of our hands by a buyer that wants to submit an offer prior. Managing the sell prior process. Again, probably goes back to my days at Channel 9, A Current Affair, always chasing a baddie. Communicate to all of your buyers. Communicate to your vendors in how you communicate to those buyers so they know exactly what's happening, and get your vendors to confirm in writing what their instructions are and how you would like to manage their sale. Because not every property needs to be an auction property, and not every vendor can handle an auction because it can be a stressful day for them. Communication.
And Karen, what about for buyers? Why is the auction process, whether it sells prior to auction or at auction in most instances,
or even after,
why is it also beneficial for buyers?
So for buyers, firstly, they have to do their due diligence first.
Yes.
Okay. So there's none of this offer and acceptance, and then they can do a building report and they can pull out after they've read the building report. Due diligence first, defined timeline, must have finance in place.
Yep.
Critical. That's the benefit for them, but also it gives them the ability to see where their competition is on the property, because price is subjective, or value is subjective at the end of the day. It's about someone's perception of how they view that property and how they value that home. Again, broad market, it's a shorter defined timeline also for a buyer. Now, if they've missed out on that property, they can then move to the next property. So I think for buyers, again, you have to give them transparency. I know it's a word that's overused in this industry. We're often called not transparent. Let me tell you, buyers also lack transparency. I have never met a buyer, Adrian, that's going to tell me the exact price that they would like to pay for that property and put it firstly on a contract and have that offer accepted. They're always going to be holding back, okay? And allows them to pay more if they see higher value in that property for whatever reason against the person that they're bidding against.
What would you say about these proposed changes in Victoria, which seem quite dramatic and draconian, where they're saying either cancel auctions altogether or publish the reserve price 1 week prior to the auction? Hasn't been implemented as yet, but something's likely to happen.
There'll be something.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I don't agree with it, firstly.
Right.
Or just cancel the auction process if you would like that much
Reform.
Control.
Yeah.
There's a lot of control. The government is trying to fix a housing crisis by controlling the auction process, is how it looks to me. There's a bigger bigger crisis than an auction. Okay?
Yes.
They need to fix the housing problem.
Yeah. Which goes back to immigration, because now we're getting 500,000 immigrants per year as opposed to 80,000 with really no extra infrastructure or resources. So you think that they're focusing on the wrong things.
Focusing on the wrong thing.
And even in New South Wales, obviously underquoting is a hot topic at the moment, but as an agent who believes in the auction process and someone who's just said that buyers don't always act transparently.
And it's not intentional. It's their money. Why would they overpay for a property if they didn't have to?
Yeah. But it's also, as other terrific assets that are quite rare and unique, whether it's cars, art or whatever. Auction is a very popular form of sale. So I just don't understand why there's no focus in those areas and only on property. But what you're saying is that it's a housing crisis and agents are the easiest targets.
We're the easiest targets. We're perceived to be the ones that are pushing up pricing. Let me tell you, the amount of parents that are out there helping their children bid at auction.
Yeah, so the bank of mum and dad, as it's called.
Mum and dad. Yeah. And you're so fortunate if you do have that. But you can't, we see it in our market. We'll often see an overpayment on a property. It's two people that are paying way beyond market value because they have the affordability to do so.
Yes.
That price for that property at that point in time has been possibly lifted just by those two people. Do I know that in 2 weeks' time I can achieve it? Probably not on that same property because those two buyers aren't there anymore.
Yes.
But if someone's not leaving there for the next 10 or 20 years, what did it actually matter that they overpaid for that property if they have the capacity?
Yes. But isn't it also an agent doing their job extremely well if they're marketing a property, servicing buyers well, managing owners' expectations, and it does sell over reserve, it's still selling for market value.
Well, market value at that point in time.
Because
but also,
the reason I ask you this is because one of my clients who is often getting over reserve price, Fair Trading had a conversation with her and said to her, it's impossible that you can be that good of an agent that every one of your sales sells over reserve. That this was the naivety of one of the supervisors to say that. And she said, well, I've got a really good coach and he taught me a process and I thought that was she honestly said, I thought that was my job to to get the best price for my client. And the supervisor said, not necessarily. So it just seems so dystopian.
I also think it's all good and well for everyone to be up in arms and be underquoting. However, that's the buyer side of it, okay? Yet when they're selling their property, don't they want the best price?
Yeah, that's right.
Don't they engage an agent to get the best price possible?
Yes. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So it's a bit of an interesting dilemma, but why have auction if a property can't sell above reserve?
But you do feel that there could be some agents who are not as forensic in their follow-up or feedback.
Correct.
Compared to others who are, and the property will genuinely achieve a more premium price.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to know how to run the process. You absolutely do. There is no if I get a great result on auction, there is no luck involved.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work.
Hard work. Yeah. And the buyer is actually happy because they've secured a home and they also feel comfortable that it's a well-contested property because they're buying a quality piece of real estate and they know and have comfort around the fact that when it comes time for them to sell, it will be equally as popular.
And you can't, as an underbidder, look, because we've had people leave an auction go, oh, that was unfair, you guys are underquoting, that was unfair. You can't help who turns up to your auction and who has more money than you on the day. So that was the wrong comments, but that's obviously how she felt at the time.
And what would be your normal dialogue with someone who says that?
Yeah. So we pulled her aside and we said, we're sorry you feel that way. The property was guiding 2.1. It sold for 2.4. You saw the competitive bidding. It was two people bidding against each other. How could you call it underquoting and unfair when you stood there and you saw the market play out in front of you? Well,
in a transparent environment.
You said all the feedback was between 2.1 and 2.2. Yes, that was the feedback. That doesn't stop the property for selling more on the auction day. You can't help it if someone's got more money that turns up on an auction. They had their parents standing behind them, both of them with two families bidding against each other.
Yes.
And you talk to the successful buyers who've now lovely family, have moved into the property. They're like, we are so lucky that we had our parents because we've missed out on so many properties. They were sick of seeing us miss out. This is an early inheritance.
Yes. Okay. That's interesting. So that's quite common now?
Quite common.
So they've got a competitive advantage, but that's just part of the buyer demographic now. Yeah.
We can't control that. We can't control that. Control what you can control.
Good. We could keep talking for hours, Karen. I know you've got another listing appointment to go to. So we really appreciate your time, and congratulations once again with Sabrina's young baby.
Yes, she'll be in. I'll be on duty, maybe like pushing her pram to keep while she can focus on coaching.
You are the youngest and most attractive grandmother I've ever met.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks so much. God bless, and have a great Christmas.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Karen.